Hi everyone, Miss Clancy here, and I have got the final instalment of Beowulf for you today, so I hope you enjoy it and let's see how it ends together. Deep in his death sleep, the Battle King heard Wiglaf's voice calling him back, opened his eyes and saw the gold honest Wiglaf had brought to show him. He thanked the youngster for all he had done for him. He was thoughtful even in death, this hero, and then, breathless, spoke these last few words. I have defended my kingdom these 50 years as best I could, served my people as wisely as I could. For that I thank my God, the King of all glory, and to him also I give thanks for these treasures I see before my dying eyes, for the opportunity to acquire them for my people on my death day, to sustain them in all their needs in the future when I am gone. Wiglaf, my beloved friend, I fear I can stay no longer. Tell them, and this is the last command of their king, to build me a tomb high on the cliff overlooking Renesnes. Let it stand always as a towering reminder of me to my people, so that masted ships dipping through the sea mists may see it and remember it always. Let the place be known as Beowulf's Barrow. So saying, he unclasped the golden collar from around his neck and gave it to Wiglaf. His helmet, armour and arm rings he handed to the young spearman, reward for his courage and loyalty. Use these well, good friend, he said. These were the old man's last words, spoken with his last breath. At that moment his soul left his body, soaring heavenwards on its way to everlasting glory. How Wiglaf grieved then at the passing of the king, and at the suffering of his life's end. It was no consolation to him that nearby lay the corpse of the terrible death dragon, no joy to him that the destroyer had been destroyed, that he would no longer fly the night air, no longer terrorise and torment the people. It was no matter either that the beautiful treasure hoard of unimaginable wealth was theirs. Not long afterwards, those 10 traitorous battle shirkers, those cringing cowards who had deserted their leader so shamefully, decided it was safe enough to emerge from the woods. They came now to where the old king lay, and found Wiglaf, weary from battle, weeping at his lord's shoulder, still trying to wake him with water, still not wanting to believe the hero would not wake from his death sleep, would not speak again. But as stillness gripped the old man's body, he saw and understood there was no life left, nor any hope of life either. He turned his gaze then, and his anger, on those craven companions in arms gathered around. Look well upon this lord of men, who made you who you are, gave you all you have and hold. But all his kindnesses were wasted, were they not? For when he needed you most, you turned and ran away. He had to face the fire fury of the death dragon, alone and unaided. I could do little for him on my own, though I tried my best. All the world shall now hear how you deserted your lord and kinsman, turned tail and fled, never a thought for your king in his greatest hour of need. You thought only of your own worthless skins. For this shameful act you will pay a heavy price, I promise you. You will be stripped of all riches and honours, all possessions, even your homes. You and yours will be condemned to wander the world as beasts, homeless and friendless forever. News of the great king's passing spread fast, how he had tried all he could to kill the death dragon, and had indeed achieved at last, but at a terrible cost. Both lay dead now on their slaughter bed by the mound. Wiglaf, the young spearman, the only one who stood by him in the fight, still at his master's side. On hearing these hateful tidings, the earls in the royal mead hall, saddened and silent, sat by their shields, fearful now for the safety of their kingdom. For the lord of the Geats, so long their strong protector, so long their guardian against every enemy, was gone from them forever. Still, unwilling and unable to believe this dread news, the warband went heavy-hearted and with welling tears to where Beowulf lay, and so they saw the body for themselves, and knew then that the final day had come for their champion, that the warrior king of the Geats was indeed dead. They saw too that loathsome dragon stretched out nearby, scorched by his own flames, twisted and coiled in his death agony. Over 50 foot long he was, this vile creature, once master of darkness, once their terrible tormentor, now laid low and destroyed by brave Beowulf. And they found there too all the treasure hoard the death dragon had been guarding. At Wiglaf's command they fetched it all out from inside the mound, bowls and flagons and platters, all in gold, wonderfully worked weapons too, arm rings and jewels hidden for 1,000 years from human eye until this moment. Neither they, as they gazed in awe at this precious pile, nor indeed Beowulf himself, could have ever known that the sole survivor of the earls, who so long ago had placed the treasure for safekeeping there, had laid a curse on it to last until the end of time, that whoever found it and plundered it would bring down upon himself and his people nothing but terror and tragedy. And so it happened. Wiglaf lifted his head and spoke to these grief-stricken earls. Before he died, our dear king asked me to present to you his last orders. We are to raise on the place of his funeral pyre, high on the hill at Renesnes, a barrow so that his name should never be forgotten. It shall be known always as Beowulf's Barrow, and I say it must be the most magnificent, the most imposing barrow ever built, a place fitting for this most honoured and honourable of all warrior walkings that ever lived. But first, let us dispose of the remains of this fiend of hell, this death dragon who brought us so much suffering. The very sight of him offends my eyes and sickens my heart. So they pushed the death dragon off the edge of the cliff, and watched as his body fell into the rocks below and broke there. The sea took him and covered him. Then the earls made a bier and carried their beloved king to the hill at Renesnes, firewood brought from far and wide to build the funeral pyre. All around it they hung shining war coats, battle shields and helmets, as befitting the great hero they had lost. On the very top they laid him out, just as he had ordered. Wiglaf it was who... Shall I try that bit again? On the very top they laid him out, just as he had ordered. Wiglaf it was who set the torch to the pyre, kindled the biggest funeral pyre ever seen. Wind fanned, the flames roared up through the pyre and consumed their cherished lord. As the cloud of black smoke drifted high over the ocean, there could be heard the wailing and weeping of the women, the warriors, and all his people, a song of sorrow that rose with billowing smoke. Heaven swallowed both. Then, just as Beowulf had commanded, the Geats built for their dead leader a beacon on that headland, so high and huge that all seafarers could see it for miles around. Deep in his tomb they laid the ashes that remained from the fire, and placed there too all the jewels and torques, all that magnificent treasure hoard they had recovered from the dragon's mound. They left it there in earth's keeping, and there it is to this day, no more use to men than ever it was before. Then the warriors rode round and round this whale barrow, last resting place of their hero king, and mourned him, told out loud their grief in lavish words, praising his name and prowess, honouring him as their lord and their friend. Of all the kings that ever lived, they said, this was the gentlest, kindest to his people, the most gracious and famous the world had ever known. His life might be over, they said, but his name and his deeds would live on as long as this tale was told, which is why, all these years later, I have told this tale. And that's it. That's the the end of Beowulf. So I'm sure as long as our story is told, his legacy will live on forever. Now I hope you've enjoyed that. If there are any other stories that you've got in your mind that you think might be quite nice for me to read, you'll have to let me know, send me an email, pop it in the comments, and I'll see if I can find it. But if not, I'll see you soon, Year 4.